Hey, it's the Andy Social Podcast, episode 219. And folks, I tell you what, you just gotta keep showing up. Keep showing up and showing up and showing up, and then talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and talking until it all falls into place eventually. Well, that's what I'm telling myself anyway. Maybe I should be doing these crazy talk episodes at a different time of the day. I usually do these like on a Sunday evening or Sunday afternoon. And even though I'm at home pretty much 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at the moment, there's still that, I don't know if you guys get it, that Sunday afternoon, evening restlessness, this anxiety, this stress, and your mind's in a million different places at once, and you want to do everything right now. You can't do everything right now, but at the same time you don't have enough concentration to do one thing, and you just ends up in this clusterfuck of just garbage, and you just end up stomping around the place, huff and a puff, and don't want to talk to anybody, and then, hey, I got to do a podcast. Hey, he's got. So, maybe Sunday evenings is not the best time to be doing this podcast, although usually by the time I finish doing these recordings, I feel a little bit better for it. So it's usually getting wound up, which is the hardest thing. And, you have a couple of beers and it's okay. It's not too bad, but it's almost like the Monday-itis sort of thing. You feel that once Monday kicks in, you just can't do what you want to do anymore, which is pretty silly because, to be honest, like I do the same shit more or less every day, but I don't know if it's just ingrained into me from a kid, like school starting again, or when you'd work a job that you hated and you had to get up earlier and commute and all that sort of stuff, and just that's all just been programmed into the back of your head. So Sunday evenings can be a bit of a drag, and I've just noticed it the last few weeks. And maybe it's just because of, I don't know, who knows. Let's psychoanalyze everything, Andy. Anyway, that's what it is. But you got to plow through. You got to show up. You got to keep these things going. You can't create excuses for yourself and go, I'm not feeling it. Blah blah blah. So I'm gonna fucking trudge through it and just headbutt myself. That's me headbutting the mic. And see how far I get with this episode. But there's a few things to talk about. Nothing terribly exciting, but you guys might I don't know, get something out of it, or get a kick out of just me just carrying on as usual. Well, to begin with, I fucking threw the George Carlin book in the corner of the room, and if anyone wants it, hit me up within the next week. Otherwise, it's on eBay. It's okay, but fuck, that was a painful read. I mean, I think I mentioned it last week. It's his book, Brain Droppings. It's like, I did mention this in the last episode. I really like his stand-up. I think he's a very witty, intelligent guy, and some great stuff in there. And to be honest, his book is not that far removed from his stand-up, but I think there's something about being able to take in his style verbally, like in audio, than reading it. And you kind of just, for me anyway, I mean, this is all my perspective, folks, my own opinion. But when I read it, I just realized how much of a grumpy prick this guy is. And I know that's his style, that's his thing, that's what he's created, and it's probably part of his persona. But it just reminded me of just a whingy older person who just wants to have like just really basic shitty jokes about just like dorky parent jokes. You know what I mean? Like very awkward, not really funny, but it's kind of like at the same time, hey, I've created a pun, or I'm deliberately over inflating the funniness of a joke. I don't know. A lot of that book just seemed too try hard, but at the same time, there were parts I enjoyed because he has some really unique spins on things and the way he looks at social situations and things like that. But I just read, I'm like, ugh, like it was just exhausting. And it's there's a fair bit in there. It's not a massive book and it's pretty straightforward, but I don't know. It's just, hey, what else can I fucking have a whinge about? It's not even like, it's kind of taking the piss out of stuff, but it was more like with this whingy tone. And I know there's going to be George Carlin fans out there that are just going to be like, what the fuck, Andy? Like, you got to be joking. One of the greatest comedians of all time. Yeah, I agree. He's fantastic. And as I said, like, I love his stand-up. I love listening to his stand-up and watching his stand-up. But reading it in a book, Yeah, I don't know. And there's been a few other comedians that have not translated well into a book either. And I think it's a case of pretty much regurgitating your your. I mean, here's me like trying to interpret comedy. Fucking fail. I'll fail big time. But translating stand-up material straight into book form, I just don't think it works because you don't have the delivery, you don't have the cadence, you don't have just the flow of it all and the way it's delivered. Whereas I'm reading it, and depending on how I feel, I'll read it and interpret it in a particular way, and it just lacks so much. And I think I read a Jerry Seinfeld book that was very similar to his stand-up, and that was kind of like meh, like not that great. But if I watch his stand-up, I actually find it hilarious. It's really good. I read a Steve Martin book ages back. I can't remember what that was called, but same sort of deal. Like, and he's like got a really dorky sort of style of comedy, but he's very visual, and even listening to him, the way he talks, it's very that's what makes it funny. There's so much more to it. I know I'm spelling out what comedy is. I get it, but yeah, reading some of these books, I'm just like, fuck, I don't think so. I don't think so. So you know what? I probably won't pick up too many more comedy books because I don't know, I haven't had a good track record so far. I think you need like really good writers, people that have got experience in writing, and maybe are actually tailoring material for a book rather than probably regurgitating stand-up stuff into a book. I don't know. But then again, like George Carlin called his book brain droppings. So fuck, I mean, who am I to judge? Pretty much it is what it is. So anyway, so I got through that. And as I said, if anyone wants it, and you listen to this within the week of this coming out, it's yours. I'll flick it out to you in the post. Otherwise, yeah, it's going to be on eBay. And I went on to another book, something a little bit more half serious, called Breakfast with Socrates. I don't know where the hell I got this book from, probably from an op shop. I don't know, but it's been sitting in my pile for a couple of years. And I'll read the back of it because it's actually not too bad so far. I'm a good chunk into it. But here, I mean, you guys know how good I am at reading things out loud. So, clever, witty. Actually, that's the testimonial. Don't worry about that. Great start. Round 2. Try again. What could you take away from having breakfast with Socrates, going shopping with Freud? It's Freud, you fucking idiot. Or partying with Machiavelli? Oh, fuck. I should do trial runs of these before I start recording. Hey, whatever. You guys just get what you get. History's greatest minds, not mine, have had a lot to say about the meaning of everything we do, from waking up and going to work or bunking off, whatever the fuck that means, to eating dinner and falling asleep. But we go through the motions of these everyday activities without stopping to think about what they mean or how they could improve our lives. In this entertaining hour-by-hour journey through a typical day, drawing on philosophy, literature, and psychology, you'll find Lucius? Oh, fuck, Andy. Explaining why it's good to be unprepared, and Emerson advising you on booking a holiday. You'll get tips from, what's this cunt's name? Nietzsche or whatever his name is? Anyway, I always read his name. I never read it out loud. On commuting. Oh, why do I do this podcast shit? Fucking hell. Oh. I continue. Insight into dreams from Jung, and the lowdown on sex from Aristophanes. I tell you what, it really brings out the dead shit in me. Socrates declared that the unexamined life is not worth living, and with wit, warmth, and authority, Robert Roland Smith shows why. Fuck it. One moment. Drinking a Lazy Yak, by the way, mid-strength, because, taking it easy. All right, we're off to a flying start, folks. Moving along. Haven't been watching any more documentaries. I've been trying to chip away at that human documentary I was mentioning last week. It's like, I think in total about 4.5 hours, or close to 5 hours over three parts. So Jess and I are getting close to the end of the third part. We started watching the end of it last night, and then Jess fell asleep, and I didn't realize she was falling asleep. And then about 15 minutes before the end, she woke up and went, I didn't watch any of that. So I stopped it, and we'll rewatch that last part again. We'll get there. So haven't really watched anything else at the moment. I'm sure there's a bunch of other stuff, a bunch of other stuff on the list for sure. Totally. Thanks for opening the social newsletter. Went out last week. Fuck, I'm on a hat trick, 3 in a row. I'm on a roll here, folks. Keeping it up, keeping it going. So wasn't much to really talk about in this newsletter because nothing's really going on, and I really didn't want to talk about you know what too much. But it was good just to get the habit of getting it out there, and it wasn't as many abuse complaints on MailChimp from it, which was good. I had a couple of unsubscribes, but yeah, that's what you get. Had some really good feedback from some people as well. So yeah, thank you to those people that sent a little reply email back when they received it. That was cool. But didn't really talk about too much in particular in there. Just sort of reiterated some of the Lord stuff and podcast stuff, what's recently come out, etc., etc. So just a little bit of a check-in because I know what it's like. For me, digesting information. And to be honest, I've got podcasts backed up to the yin yang at the moment. So I wouldn't be surprised if people only start listening to, say, this episode in 6 months' time because there's just so much shit like mine getting put out there into the world. And I think because people are stuck at home, their normal listening habits aren't the same as well. So for me, because I'm not commuting or not getting out of the house as much as I have been in the past, I'm not listening to as many podcasts. So I'm trying to keep up with the basic stuff. Like there's certain things I like to keep up to date with, certain shows, but which means I'm sort of intentionally putting the headphones in and doing stuff around the house, but it's something it's not part of my routine. So it's very disjointed, has been disjointed for the past few weeks. So I don't know where I was going with that. Oh yeah, no, I was just saying with the newsletter, while I felt like I wasn't sharing a lot of new information because there was nothing new to share from my end, I keep reminding myself that a lot of people aren't keeping up to date with everything I'm doing, funnily enough, not the center of the universe. And the newsletter is a good way for them to remember or to see things that they may have missed in news feeds, etc., etc. So there is value there, and I have to keep telling myself that because as I was putting together that newsletter, I'm thinking, man, like what value is this bringing? I've got nothing new to share. Fuck, I'm doing a good job tonight, guys. So anyway, I shot it out because you got to keep showing up, guys. You got to keep showing up. And so anyway, it went out, and I'm really, really happy. And I'm looking to think about what I'm going to include for the May edition, which will be out in about a month's time. So I've got to start thinking now. Don't leave it to the last minute, Andy. But yeah, it was really good that it went out, and not as many unsubscribes or abuse complaints as the previous months had. What else has been going on? What have I... I'll plug the Lord stuff. I mean, you guys have seen the video popping around that I did, and I've been talking about in the last couple of episodes. There's about 10 days left of that. So yeah, if you have any sort of items, this is for Lord fans, of course, and not everyone's a Lord fan, but for the Lord fans out there listening, if there's something in your collection that you don't have yet, it might be a good time to snap it up, because we're giving away free stuff with every order for the month of April. So if you're not aware, every order from our Lord Bandcamp page, which is lordofficial.bandcamp.com, will get your choice of either a Lord patch or a Dungeon era patch, completely free. Fantastic. That's with every order. And if there's people out there that have been on the fence or haven't gotten around to buying a large amount of our stuff, our CDs or t-shirts and patches and blah, 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 we're doing a deal for anyone that spends over $100. And that is both patches. You also get the old notorious Dimebag tribute CD. It's getting a bit of a reputation now. But that CD's up for grabs, and I will plug it and I'll tell you all about it. Recorded in or released in 2006, it features, I don't know, about, should know off by heart, 12 tracks maybe, something like that, and mostly bands that don't exist anymore, or Aussie metal or sort of heavy music bands, that I think there's probably only 2 or 3 out of the whole lot that still exist, barely, and it also includes the first ever Lord recording, which is our cover of Pantera's Shattered off the Cowboys from Hell album. So it's a bit of an Aussie metal artifact now, and I've still got a bunch of copies here at home. So yes, they're getting given away left, right, and center. Especially for people that have been listening to the Crazy Talk episodes. I've been plugging that CD for a while, or in the Facebook group as well. But yeah, so that's one of the other freebies. There's also, you also get a Lord hip flask. There was only 100 of them made a while back, and I've still got a few of them left. So that's going to be thrown in for free, and also a little bottle opener, Lord bottle opener as well. So just a few extra freebies just to build up and bulk up the order that you're making, and that'll all be sent out at no extra cost to you. So that's for the month of April. It's just a way to hopefully clear out some more merch. We've had some great orders this month, actually. It's great when you sort of get in front of people's faces and they go, oh yeah, I might actually have been meaning to get a t-shirt and a CD or whatever. So we've had a lot of people sort of filling in gaps in their collections, etc. And I've been able to offload a decent whack of stuff, but I'm trying to clear more. So folks, if you see that video on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, give it a bit of a share, and let some mates know that are Lord fans, because definitely want to clear out some more stuff. And from a Lord perspective, we've got more stuff coming. We've don't really have anything to tell or disclose at the moment, but a couple of releases that are penned for this year. One of them will be sooner rather than later, I think. We're just working on some artwork at the moment, and then we should almost be ready to go. And then the second release, which hopefully will be out this year, will be sort of at the tail end of the year. We'll just see how that one goes. But I'm trying to get some external advice, some independent advice to sort of get a little bit more strategic with these, because it's a very weird year with everything going on and a lot of attention and people trying to work out when to do things. And so we just want to make sure that we don't throw things in the bin, so to speak, by releasing them at the wrong time, wrong place, etc. So we do have some stuff in store, which means more merch, more tangible things, more stuff that's going to sit in boxes and on shelves here at my place. So I need to clear some old stuff. So yes, please, if you've been on the fence and haven't picked up any of our stuff before, or maybe there's a CD or two or a t-shirt or something like that you don't have, it'd be amazing if you could grab it sometime this month, because I can also justify offloading a bunch of extra stuff for free as well. And of course, guys, with Bandcamp, you can use the code AndySocial for the Lord store, and you get 15% off as well. So, more bang for your buck, guys. So get in there and do that. And if you're not interested in that, but you know a couple of metalhead loving mates, then please share it around or tag a few mates into the dumb video that I put together, even just to take the piss out of me. Whatever it takes, I don't care. All right. Hey, I mentioned the other week about Frankie McDonald. One of the many people that I follow on social media. I'm a bit of a fan of some of these weird and wonderful and wacky people. But for anybody that hasn't listened to Crazy Talk for a few weeks, I think it might have been when Jess was on, I was talking to her about it. But Frankie's this guy from Nova Scotia, or it's actually Sydney in Nova Scotia in Canada. And he's, well, actually, I think he says to people he's got autism, and he has this thing for the weather. And ever since he was a kid, he's always been obsessed with the weather. And he's got all this knowledge, and he's just continuously digesting information about the weather around the world. And so he discovered YouTube a number of years ago and started doing these weather reports. And some of his videos went viral, and he became really, really popular. And he's got these taglines like "Be prepared," and he shouts his weather reports into the camera. So a bit of a quirky guy, very entertaining, and for the most part, it's actually quite surprising, because you know what people are like, and you know what the internet's like. But you know, he gets so much love from people. It's just incredible, and the amount of people that encourage him. And yes, it's entertaining. I get it, and there'll be an element where you're kind of like taking the piss and maybe taking advantage of the situation. But at the same time, there's a lot of people that just encourage him. And obviously he's got an outlet, and man, like, how good's the internet when people like this, who normally probably wouldn't have many people or social circles or anything to get anything out of their system, and now they've got these platforms where they can share what what they like and do it in their own unique way. And there's people out there that really enjoy it. So anyway, the reason why I'm bringing him up again is that I needed an iPhone case, and the last one I had was just getting a bit gross. And with all this COVID-19 talk, I just looked at it and thought, I wonder how many diseases are on this case, because it's like sort of like a material case. So I took it off, threw it in the bin, and I did a little shout out on Facebook and said, looking for recommendations for any sort of crazy iPhone cases. And so a bunch of people left some feedback. And then one guy, Carl from In Malice's Wake, I almost had a mind blank, suggested Redbubble, Andy. Fuck me. And I heard the place before. It's like a sort of print on demand store that just has artwork for all sorts of different things, and you can apply it to different products, t-shirts and stickers and iPhone cases and all sorts. Bed linen, pillowcases, crazy stuff. So anyway, I searched for Frankie McDonald, and sure enough, there's Frankie McDonald prints on Redbubble. And so I ended up getting an iPhone hard case with Frankie's face on it. So if you're curious to see what it looks like, oh man, Jess is not impressed. She just looked at it and went, oh my God. You can, I put the video up on, actually, I put the video up on almost everywhere. It's on YouTube. So if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, it'll be on there. It's also on my Facebook page, and it's on Instagram as well. So go and have a look. I did a little bit of an unboxing video, and for whatever reason, over the past week or two, I think it's just being sort of in this weird mode of isolation. I've just been ordering more shit online, and I'm not much of a buyer. I don't buy a lot of stuff. I love to sell. But I don't buy a lot of stuff. For whatever reason, I've got a bit of a niche at the moment. So I've been buying stuff and getting stuff in the mail. So what I'm going to start doing is doing some unboxing videos as I get shit in the mail that's being sent to my PO box. So if you want to send me anything sort of wacky or crazy, here it is. PO Box 129, Pyrmont, New South Wales 2009. That's my PO box. So send me something stupid in the mail, and I'll open it up and do an unboxing or an unraveling video, whatever it is. But I've been getting a bunch of stuff, and I've got a bunch of stuff still on its way as well. So lots of interesting things. So I did an unboxing video for my Frankie case, which I think amused me more so than anybody else. So that's the way. That's my life, really. Speaking of opening things, I did a shout out. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this in the last Crazy Talk episode. I'm sure I have. Anyway, I've mentioned it mountains of times in the past, but I've been doing calls to action for mates that play in bands, musicians, artists, comedians, business owners, whoever has something to promote or sell. And I've asked them to have a look around their homes and see if they've got boxes of old CDs, flyers, stickers, other promotional things, preferably smaller stuff, that I could potentially add into Lord orders or my Discogs orders or my eBay orders, and probably more of a later thought is to have stuff for you guys as well, giveaways and things like that. So the whole point behind it was that I've been there in the past. I've been there, done that, where I will have mountains of stuff that's not moving. It's not going anywhere. It's not even up for sale. It's just sitting there in boxes collecting dust, and you kind of forget that it's there. And for me, I mean, after a while, it just doesn't have any value anymore because it's not doing anything. It's not serving a purpose. So I've been doing this for quite a while for the Lord orders, about the last 5 or 6 years. And for us, the way it's good for us because we add more bang for buck when people order from us. It's really good. They get something extra that they open up when they buy something from us. And for them, obviously it's good, and it incentivizes people to keep ordering from us as well. So that's always good, a bit of customer retention. But for the people that are donating their stuff, it gets out of their house. It's less shit lying around in boxes. They can declutter a bit, but probably more importantly, the stuff that they actually gave a shit about at one point or still do gets out there and gets into the hands of people that possibly will like what they do, and a higher chance because we're on the internet, we're scrolling through news feeds all the time, and everybody's trying to get our attention for whatever it is, and it's very, very hard to cut through the noise. But when you open something in the mail physically and you get a sticker or a flyer or a CD or fucking whatever, you suddenly got all of their attention, even if it's for a split second before they throw it in the bin. I don't know if they do that, but you've got their attention and it's in their hands and it's tangible, it's real. And I think that's so valuable and something that's very hard to do. So for us, we've got this opportunity. I have this opportunity where I'm constantly putting things in people's hands. That sounds weird. With orders, I'm sending out orders every week. And so I have like this mailing list as such. So for me, there's value there. So I've been doing the shout out for all these bands. So speaking of unboxing things, that's where I was going with this. A long time friend of the band, and I haven't seen him for quite a few years, but Amir, the drummer from Anno Domini, a Sydney band that's been around for quite some time, he sent me a message on Instagram and asked for my address, and he said, "Oh, you'll send me a few CDs." So I said, "Oh, cool, awesome." So anyway, I go to the post office the other day and go to collect my parcel, and out walks this massive box, and I go, "What the hell is this?" So anyway, I get home and I see Amir's name on it. I go, "Oh, geez, all right, here we go." So there, once again, another unboxing video, which is online, the usual places that I mentioned before, and he sent me. Oh, I haven't counted them, but I'm assuming 100 copies because it's a box that usually carries about 100 CDs, 100 copies of their album, The Cold Expanse, digipacks, and like beautiful artwork and amazing album, really good. So just blew me away that he just basically offloaded that many copies to me. I'm like, oh shit, I'm really going to move these now. So that was fantastic. So thanks, Amir. I mean, I don't even know if you listen to the podcast or not, but if you do, I really appreciate it. And like I say, with everybody who donates stuff to this little idea of mine, I really make sure that they go to good homes. So for me, I always make an effort to send things. So for Amir's sake, and being sort of a New South Wales or a Sydney band, I will try to send these copies to places that are not near the band, places that the band may not have been to, or is not within immediate reach. So, cities, towns, interstate, away, or overseas orders as well. So I'll usually throw in stuff like that. I'll try not to do them, send these to people that are sort of in the Sydney area, because there's a chance that they may already have the album, or there's a high chance that maybe Anno Domini can target them a bit easier and actually get a sale as well. So I've done that with all the bands over the years as well. I always try to be really intentional about where their stuff goes. I really want to make sure that I increase the chances that it's going to hit the right spot at the right time. So yeah, I've been putting it out there. So anybody out there that fits these sort of this scenario where they've got stuff at home and things that they're really passionate about, could be just a project or a hobby or something like that you got a bunch of stickers or flyers or something like that, flick them over, and I'm more than happy to include some extra shit in our orders. It's just everyone's a winner. I keep saying that, everyone's a winner. So yeah, there's heaps more stuff coming. I know there's a few people that loyal listeners of the podcast who are sending me a bunch of stuff as well. So as I get them, I'll share that with you all. I think for people that are in the social Facebook group, I've put a post up today just talking about freebies and what to do for those freebies, putting reviews up online, etc., stuff that I've carried on about in the past. And I've taken some photos of some of these things in one of the posts, so you can have a look. And if you're interested in any of those things, yeah, you guys know the drill. So it's just about a bit of social media love, a bit of some reviews around the place, and yeah, that stuff's up for grabs, and I'm happy to post that out wherever. It's a small price to pay for that kind of stuff, which is highly valuable for me in the podcast. So that's all there, and up for grabs for everybody. It's not exclusive just to a small few. What else have I got written here on my list? Yeah, talked about Frankie. Talked about the social. All right, so probably so a couple more things before I wrap it up. I've got the elephant in the room that's coming up soon. It's not the elephant room; it's just the thing that's in the front of my head, which I'm trying to just push back until later in the podcast. So, the suspense. So some spoilers for this week. So fast forward or whatever. this week's episode coming out on Thursdays with Mark Randall. Now, you might not know Mark, but Mark is a teacher. He's a booker, promoter, and he's also a super nerd, a super geek. And I've known him for quite a few years. We have a lot of great mutual friends. He's based in Adelaide. He's one of the many people that I got on the podcast when I was in Adelaide earlier this year. And he... I just lost my train of thought then. Mark is what we end up doing with this podcast. I had a bunch of things to talk to him about because one of his main things is Thump Music, which is this this touring company, this booking company that he has, and he's brought out and helped put on shows for Joe Satriani, the Aristocrats, Paul Gilbert. There's somebody else, I can't remember. There's a whole bunch. And so he's got some great connections especially in that guitar world in particular. And I was going to talk to him about a whole bunch of stuff around that, but we sort of went off on a tangent right at the beginning and just stayed on this tangent, which was all about nerd culture and collecting things. And so we spoke about Masters of the Universe, G.I. Joes, Thundercats, Dino Riders. We talked about trading cards and all that kind of stuff, heaps of stuff. And he shared a lot of really cool stories, personal stories, some of the reasons why he does what he does. And we talked about one of the main things that he's involved with at the moment, which is called Geektopia Oz. And it's this Facebook group and this community that he's been building with a couple of friends for the past several years. And he's just relaunched his Facebook group of the same name. And it's this really cool community. It's really, really interesting. And it's not just about your stereotypical nerd culture of, I don't know what, action figures and comics and sci-fi and like the stuff that you'd see at maybe like a Comic-Con or things like that. His big thing is that if you collect something, then share it. And it doesn't matter what it is. It can be music, it can be CDs, vinyl, it could be guitars, it could be books, it could be, I've got stacks of beer coasters that I'm trying to work out what to do with them, that my grandfather gave me when he was traveling through, after the war and working on oil rigs through the Pacific, etc. So I've got all these things that I collect, and he's created this group where we can share them all, and it's not just sort of exclusive only to your stereotypical sort of nerd culture stuff. So really exciting and super fun to watch what he does and how he interacts with people. I'm getting a few lessons from him. He's really good in community engagement and getting people on board. He does a lot of Facebook Lives, which, oh guys, I don't know if I'll ever do that. But anyway, I think there's enough Facebook Lives at the moment. But he does a really good one, and he's got a really involved and a really sort of hands-on community that all share their loves for all this cool stuff that they collect, and the photos are amazing. So if you ever want to squeeze, go and check that out. So anyway, Mark's on the podcast this week. When we caught up, we just sank some beers in my hotel room in Adelaide, and we did the podcast for about an hour. We didn't even touch on music. We just spoke about all this geek stuff, and it was fantastic, like a really, really fun chat. And then we kept chatting for another 2.5 hours afterwards, and I probably should have just kept recording because it was just fantastic. He's just such a good dude. And yeah, Mark, I know you listen to this podcast religiously, and you're a massive supporter of everything that I do. You're such a good dude, and we'll definitely have to do some more podcasts down the track. I think there's more things that we can do. So, yeah, guys, I think you'll really get a good something out of this. You'll enjoy it. Yeah, that'll do. Anyway, I've been doing some other podcast stuff as well, so I'll just keep you guys in the loop from a podcast point of view. I've been getting to the tail end of all of my pre-recorded podcasts. So I think by sort of mid-Feb, I'd recorded right up until May, basically. So I'm getting towards the end of May now. I've got about 3 or 4 episodes left that have been pre-recorded. And I've just started to wind it back up again and start doing new episodes. So I'm just going to tell you who they are, who I've recorded. You guys take the time to listen to me waffle, so I may as well share some of this stuff with you. So I did one the other day with Aaron Osborne, who is, he plays in the bands Mental Cavity and I Exist, and what's the other one? Burning Hostages or something like that, a Melbourne band. And he also has his own podcast called Oblivious Maximus podcast, and he just relaunched that this year, where he talks to a lot of his mates, some mates in some high-profile bands, and they pick an album that they love, and they share that with Aaron, and they talk about it and why they love it and why it's so important to them. And such a great idea, like a fantastic format that he's got for his podcast. So I've been meaning to have Aaron on for yonks. Like I tried to tee one up in person years ago, and just never went ahead. But yeah, we did that the other day, and that was a fantastic chat. So that'll be out sometime in the coming weeks. And I also did one with Curtis Diwa. You might not know Curtis. Some of you guys will. Curtis is he's a PR guy in the heavy music world. He's got his own PR company called Diwa PR. That's a tongue to Diwa PR. And he's also the co-host of the Dumb and Dumbest podcast with Keefe from Ghost Cult magazine and Matt Bacon, who's been on the podcast already from Dropout Media, and he's a bit of a PR guru himself. He does his Bacon Bits, Insta stories and videos, etc., etc. So yeah, a really good guy. Curtis is really knowledgeable. He's from Canada, and he's been around the traps for a few years and has some great insights into how to effectively use PR and be a good band when it comes to promoting yourself and putting yourself out there. So, yeah, my muso mates will really get a kick out of that. There's some really great stuff in there, and it was so good that we didn't even scrape the surface. We actually had a fairly long chat about a whole bunch of different stuff, that we agreed that we're going to do another podcast the same time the following week. So next week, I'll do another one with Curtis. And so there'll be a gap between the episodes, a month or so. But yeah, I'm starting to really sort of sink in the idea of really getting reoccurring guests to come on. This is easy. I can do this. So, and I think for you guys, I know personally when I listen to other people's podcasts, when there's a reoccurring guest, a guest that comes back on, I'm far more engaged, and I really enjoy it because I've got context. I know a bit more about that person. There's already a bit of a connection there, and I get to learn more about them, and you feel like you're more and more part of what's going on. So I want more of that. So Curtis is he's straight off the bat. We locked it in straight away as soon as we got off the recording, and yeah, so there'll be a couple of episodes of him coming out soon. I've got a whole bunch scheduled in for the next week. I'm not going to say who they are because you guys know how it is. People cancel and change and all sorts of things happen, so I won't mention them. I'll mention them as I lock them in. I also appeared on a couple of podcasts as well. So, and the 2 video ones. These are the first video podcasts I've ever done. To be honest, I was really reluctant to do them because there was Zoom and just quality is sometimes a bit shit and just anyway, but I took the plunge and did them, and they're actually fantastic. I had a lot of fun. So one of them was Broden and Cody podcast, I believe, and they've only been up and running for a couple of months, but really, really good podcast. And yeah, I got to chat about what I've been doing for Andy Social and a bunch of other stuff, and just really funny guys, and just yeah, a really great chat. So that'll be out, I believe. Well, they mentioned Wednesday this week coming, so maybe tomorrow if you're listening to this on time, maybe. So if you search Broden and Cody on Facebook, you should be able to find them. I don't have the URL in front of me here, but yeah, so that'll be available, and I'm sure is it on Apple Podcasts as well, so you can listen to the audio as well. And I also did a podcast for one called The Pagey Train, which is a podcast based in Sydney, and yeah, it was a really fun chat. In fact, Roscoe, who is the host of the podcast, I don't really know. I don't have much of a prior connection. I think we've got a bunch of sort of mutual friends. But anyway, he reached out to me and offered to be on the podcast, and I took it up. And I was actually going to go out to his. He's got an actual studio that he set up at his place out in Penrith, out in Western Sydney. And that was meant to be on the 1st of April, and obviously what's happened in the world, we couldn't do that. So we did the second option, which is the Zoom video podcast, and it was fun. It was really good. So I don't know when that one's going to be out. Actually, it might be the other way around. I think I might be stuffing this up. The Pagey Train. So if you search the Pagey Train, I think, and actually, let's just try and find these guys. I'll do the right thing by everybody. Okay, so if you search Still Searchin' and the Pagey Train, and the Pagey is Pagey train, on Facebook, you'll find the Facebook page for that. Now, I'm pretty sure this episode comes out tomorrow, Wednesday. So have a look for that if you're interested. And then the other podcast, Broden and Cody, just search for that on Facebook. I don't think that's coming out for a few weeks. But a really good podcast that they're doing as well. So make sure you go and check them out. And you guys know I'll share all those links later on down the track anyway. I'm all about content. So, I had a lot of fun doing those podcasts, and to be honest, I need to do heaps more. I really need to get on other podcasts. It's moved the needle quite a bit in the past when I've done it. So if you got any suggestions of any Aussie, or it doesn't even need to be Aussie podcasts, any podcasts out there that you think could be a foot in for me. Oh, we had a technical difficulty there. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, we'll clip that one together. I don't know what I was saying. Oh, yeah, if you know any podcasters out there, I know there's some guys here that have been hitting me up, and some of you guys have been listening have been hitting me up for particular podcasts. But, keep them coming, the suggestions. And if I can contribute anything to the podcast and it's going to work, then I'll definitely do it. There's a couple there that I'm a little bit gun-shy of being on because... either it's a topic I've got no idea about, and I'm not sure how much I can actually add value to, although that could be quite entertaining in itself, really. I mean, you guys listen to this bullshit from me, so who knows? I definitely need to do more of them. I need to get out there and interact on other people's shows and with their audiences, and it's definitely helped in the past. So keep a lookout. Have a look through your podcast player, and if you think, spit it out. If you think there's a podcast that could be a good suit, then let me know, or recommend me to them as well. That always helps, a bit of a recommendation. Okay, now the last thing before we wrap this up is the future of this podcast. It's really gotten that bad, guys. It's really gotten that bad. No, it's all positive. So I'm scheming at the moment about what I'm going to do with this podcast moving forward. We're only just back into it, only a couple of months back in. So, where the momentum is going very well at the moment. I've got no complaints whatsoever. Like, there's more and more people listening to the weekly episodes with the guests than ever before. These particular episodes don't get as many listens, but even that's increasing as well. And I don't really care too much if I don't get as many people tuning into this one because, it's a bit rough around the edges. But it's all positive. It's going in the right direction. But what's getting me, what's making me think a bit more about the future of the podcast is, well, I've mentioned in previous episodes about sort of new costs that are coming in. Different things that I need to be taking into account around expenses, etc. And just thinking about just ensuring that the podcast remains sustainable financially, and I can remove as much of that worry as possible so I can just enjoy doing this, because I find, and I've found in the past, is that if I'm really stretched, then this becomes the ultimate chore. And even me doing this evening, it's been a bit of a tough one, guys. It's been a bit of a tough one, but I don't want that to be the norm either. So it's fine if I have a train wreck every once in a while, but I don't want it to be. I want it to be the exception rather than the norm. So I really want to safeguard that and make this as fun as possible for me, and make it interesting, but also do the right thing by you all by making this entertaining and interesting and adding value, etc. So I'm looking at Patreon, guys. That's where I'm going. I'm just gonna jump right into it. So I've just been toying around with a Patreon page. I'm not going to launch anything just yet. I've asked a couple of people in our Facebook group about it, just to get a bit of feedback, and had some feedback so far. So thanks, guys. I appreciate that. I'm really reluctant. I've been reluctant to do this. I've thought about it for quite some time, for the last couple of years, about doing things like this. And I think it's probably just being very reluctant to ask people to pay for something, when I've always done it for free, and I do it because I love doing it. And it's always it's almost like the musician thing. You do something because you love it, and then when it gets to that point where you start to get some traction, that you get to that awkward moment where you start to ask people to pay to come and see you play, or maybe you don't give away your CDs anymore and you start charging people for the CDs, and suddenly you're not doing mates rates anymore, and it's very awkward and it's a hard transition to do. And I feel like that's where I'm at the moment. And just been thinking about it for a long time, but now with some increased costs to the podcast, I really need to think seriously about this. So what I'm thinking, I haven't finalized anything yet, but I've mocked up a Patreon page for the podcast, and I'll launch that in due course, I believe. But what I'm thinking is I'll have two tiers, 2 to 3 at the most. If I can really validate in my head that a third tier is going to be really good. But more or less, the way that I've kind of got it in my mind at the moment is the first tier will be $1 a month. It's nothing. It's nothing. Now, mind you, this is just to make sure that I feel better about myself. I'm just going to premise this with a big disclaimer to say that what I'm telling you is not me making anybody feel obligated to spend any money on what I do. I probably shouldn't even be saying that. It's a big boo-boo. I should not be doing that. I should just be saying what it is and just throwing it out there and leaving it to you guys to make the decision. But I'm just self-conscious of that. And so what I'm sharing with you all is more just what's going on in my head and what I'm thinking and how I can sort of approach this next stage in my own journey with creating stuff. So yes, like, honestly, if you just love listening to the podcast and that's it, really, I mean, that means the world to me. So I've put that out there. I feel better about myself. Excellent. Now, moving back to it. The first tier will be $1 a month. And it's just a feel-good payment. That will just be an automatic payment every month. So if you haven't used Patreon before, I use it for a few different things. I usually donate $1 or $2 to a couple of podcasts that I listen to, and Patreon just takes it out of. Well, it's up to you what sort of pay preference you want to set up, but I use PayPal, and so it does an automatic payment from my PayPal balance each month. And so it's all in US dollars, by the way, big disclaimer there. So yeah, a few dollars out of my PayPal comes out at the beginning of each month. And so it's nothing really. But I know that there's quite a few people that support those podcasts, and so while me on my own it's not significant, I know part of the mass and part of the community it's a massive impact, and it feels good just to throw a couple of dollars even though it's quite small. So I thought I'd do something similar. So $1 a month, just an automatic little thing that Patreon will take out of your PayPal or fucking bank account or credit card or whatever you want to do, and yeah, and it's just a nice little gesture, makes you feel good, and that's about it. No strings attached, no obligations, nothing attached to it apart from just doing a little donation, a little gesture of support. And because Patreon's quite familiar for a lot of people, it's probably a very easy way and low friction way for people to do it without overthinking it as well and trying to work out a new platform or whatever it might be. So it's familiar, it's easy to use. So that's there. Now, going into the next tier. My next tier, this is me sort of spitballing ideas as I go, would be potentially a $5 tier. Now, the $5 tier is going to be, the feel-good aspect of it all, but it's also going to be these crazy talk episodes. So what I'm thinking is that potentially from or after 223, episode 223, no more crazy talk episodes will go public. The remainder will stay public, and but from there, the podcast publicly will go back to an episode a week, which will just be the guest, and the crazy talk episodes will sit behind this paywall. So once again, spitballing ideas. So I haven't quite sort of really. I'm not married to this idea just yet, but so each month you pay $5 and on average you'll get 4 to 5 crazy talk episodes a month. Now, this will also encourage me personally to make these a bit more interactive, a bit more structured, do some funny, stupid stuff in here, make some phone calls, call some of you fine folk, call some mates, people, maybe just do a quick 5-minute phone call or do some silly interactive stuff, get people's opinions on things really quickly, whatever it might be, and just I want to make them more candid like this, very raw, rough around the edges, etc., but more interactive and a few more dimensions to it as well. And I might use them as a bit of a a bit of a practice pad to maybe improve some of my skills in production, or maybe adding some different things like segments and different stuff and whatever it might be. So, but I want you guys to be a part of it, and I want it kind of to be, I kind of like the idea of it being a little bit exclusive to people that that really do support what I do. So that's the idea that's in my head. I don't think there was anything else for 5. Now, originally these extra things were going to be in the 5, but I think I might move it to a $10 tier as well. So 5 is the Crazy Talk episodes, and all these things. From what I understand, because I'm still trying to get my head around Patreon from a creator point of view, I'll have Patreon posts and things like that as well, which you guys will get access to. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to post in there, but hey, give me some ideas, I'll work it out. And yeah, for the $10 one, what I'm thinking is that I do the Crazy Talk episode, and then because it's going to be a smaller amount of people that donate $10 a month, which is fucking, I expect, I would be very surprised if more than one person does it. Honestly, like, I know there's a lot of people that listen to these podcast episodes. Like, there's a lot, but I could be stretching it a bit here. Yeah. So anyway, for anybody that's going to be that much of a legend and just be willing to just throw $10 at me a month, which would be fucking incredible, then what I'll do is I'll have the Crazy Talk episodes. I'll make sure that there is, and I'll call these tiers different groups. I don't know what I'll call them. There'll be like group 1, group 2, group 3. It won't be that. It'll be something a little bit more creative than that. But group 3 will constantly always have shout outs in every single episode of the podcast, whether they be the Crazy Talk episodes or they're the public episodes as well. So I'll have a Patreon shout out for group 3 on those episodes. And not that that's like this the most amazing thing in the world, but it's a little tip of the hat to say thank you. And I know it's going to be a smaller amount of people that do something like that. And the other thing, which for anybody else out there, I don't know anybody else that would find this a great idea, but for me, I've been wanting to do this for years, and this is just to amuse myself. But potentially for this tier, what I might do is every month, kind of like the social newsletter that you get in your inbox, I'm going to send you in the mail an old school fucking piece of paper newsletter. I remember those old newsletters you get at school or whatever, or in the mailbox from your local community bloody group or whatever it might be. Or even actually for some of you old school Lord fans, Dungeon fans, you would have back in the day, late 90s, early 2000s, Dungeon used to send out white mail, like old newsletters. And Jordan, who listens to the podcast, plays in The Vessel, he put a photo up the other day and actually jogged my memory again, because he shared photos of the old Dungeon newsletters. So Jordan, when you eventually listen to this, and I don't know how up to date you are, but post that photo that you posted on the Lord page into our group chat, in our group Facebook group, just so everyone can see what these newsletters looked like, because they were really cool. Very simple, just a double-sided newsletter, very high-level sort of stuff. But I remember getting these in the mail myself, and they were fucking cool. And so when Lord started up and we started, getting into it at all and building this community, I was always talking about doing a newsletter, and just never made it happen. So this is my time to shine, guys. So I'm thinking for a third tier is that, because it'll be a small amount of people as well, it'll be easier to do, but I will do a separate group 3, which will be whatever the name of the group is, newsletter, that will be mailed out to you anywhere in the world every month, and it will have a whole bunch of stuff on there. It'll be similar to the social, but probably a little bit more candid, a little bit more personalized, and just a little bit more exclusive. So I'll try and share things, some interesting insights, some stuff that may not be shared anywhere else, and I might try to get leverage to get access to certain things that you guys can take advantage of as well. So, and I think just the novelty of getting a letter in the mail is so fucking cool. Like I know for me, I still get a rush when I get something in the mail, and these days everything's freaking digitized, which is fine. It's really convenient, but there's nothing like getting something tangible, something you can touch. So Yeah, so if that floats your boat and you're pretty pumped about supporting the podcast, then that could be a tier for you. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? I might just combine it all into the $5 tier and just leave it at that. I don't know. But yeah, so I had a look. Patreon takes a bit of a cut out of everything, yeah, as they do. But I mean, they're providing the platform, and so it's their business model, and it makes sense, and that's why they do what they do, which is good. But I think by doing something like this, it's going to be very good for me because it will teach me what value this podcast holds, which is quite scary because it could be absolutely soul destroying, or it could be the other way around. And it will motivate me to really continue to expand this and make this bigger and better. I want to eventually get this into a little bit more of a video-based podcast in places, not everything. I want it more interactive. I want to reach out and talk to a lot of you. I want it to be more of a community. I want to do all this sort of stuff, but I need to actually sort of go through the motions, go through the steps, etc. So there's lots of things I want to do, and I think this will be a significant step in possibly the right direction to just get me mentally in sort of on the right track, but also to bring in some more money for the podcast, to be fucking brutally honest. Like, I'm going to be like, I think already I spend a few grand a year, doing the podcast. And it's a decent chunk of money. But I'm looking at the podcast expenses potentially doubling, now. So it's a fuck ton of money, and, I could, make some changes and, reduce it down in size and, streamline it a bit more, and maybe make some different changes behind the scenes to save some dollars. But I think for me, that I'm sort of running away from growth. I'm running away from opportunity to get better. And I think sort of having my back against the wall a little bit financially, it's gonna motivate me to make some decisions now, which is good. It's exciting and really fucking stressful. So so Patreon's gonna be there. I'll share a little bit more probably in the next Crazy Talk episode. If you're in the Facebook group, so search for The Social, or Andy Social, maybe, possibly, then you'll be able to find the private group and just put a request in, and I'll approve you. I'll share it in that group because I've already been spitballing some ideas in there with a few of you, and I'll share some detail once that's all up and running, and hopefully have a bit of clarity around how I'm going to do it. Now, I know there are people out there that fucking hate Patreon, and fair call. I'm not gonna judge you, but may still want to support the podcast. Now, I always carry on about PayPal, paypal.me/Andy Dowling official, and it's in the show notes as well. You can always throw $1 in there if you want to, an Australian dollar, by the way, whatever you want. It's up to you. And if you want, I believe there's also an option to do a reoccurring payment as well, when you pay. So if you want to do the $1 a month sort of deal, but you're not interested in Patreon whatsoever, then you could just use PayPal and just do it that way. And I'll just make sure that if you're going to be donating an equivalent amount of money as far as what the tiers are for Patreon, then I'll just ensure that you're included with that exclusive stuff as well. And I'll just manually get it to you, because it's not that hard. So, so there's options there. And to be honest, guys, like, I'm always shouting from the rooftops for feedback, suggestions, any sort of input, and a lot of you guys are champions. You really, like, you shoot me DMs and messages and give me lots of different ideas and people, like, guests to consider, and different ideas for the podcast and whatever, and it's such a massive help for me, and just keeps giving me sort of the reassurance that that I'm on the right track with this. I mean, I've been doing it for 4.5 years. You'd think I'd just sort of have it all worked out by now, but I don't. So it's cool to have a bit of a collective helping me out, and keeping me moving forward in the right direction, and giving me some feedback along the way. It's a massive help, because I want to get better. I want this to be better. I think that's it. I think that was the last thing. I left that to the last thing to mark off the list and talk about. AndyDowling.net, you know where to go. If you want to go back and listen to Self Starter or Nod to the Old School, the other podcasts, or you want to check out our band Lord, you haven't gotten around to doing that yet, you can go and check us out. We're on all the socials and everything, all the links in the show notes. You guys know the drill. And I've just carried on about supporting me, so I don't need to tell you how to support me. because I'm going to be doing a lot more of that soon. And that's about it. So as I mentioned before, spoiler once again, this week's guest is Mark Randall. So stay tuned for that one, especially if you're a big fucking nerd, big geek. You'll enjoy that episode, especially if you love a bit of old school 80s toy memorabilia and stuff like that. You should really enjoy that episode. And if you want to get like a little bit of a sneak peek, go and search for Geektopia Oz on Facebook and like the page and check out their group as well. Really, really good stuff and some fun pictures in there as well. And heaps more episodes being recorded this week. I have a jam-packed schedule and I'm locking in more and more guests. So I'm going to eventually get to the point where I'll be another 3 months booked in advance again, which is giving me other ideas, especially when it comes to bonus content on Patreon. So I might end up doing a lot more episodes with people and maybe sharing some stuff exclusively with this new little community, this new little Patreon community, maybe. So anyway, lots of ideas, a lot more waffling to come, as you know. So until next week, or until Thursday, until you hear the next episode, talk to you then. Otherwise, another crazy talk this time next week, and maybe I'll record it on Saturday. Who knows? Anyway, until then, ta-ta, bye-bye.